into the crisis in Rivers State before we commence our press briefing. I'd like to also say that we have over 300 civil society organizations and citizens of Nigeria that have endorsed the statement that I'm about to read. And for purposes of accountability and transparency, I will read their names out loud at the end of the statement. Members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a defining moment for our democracy. Our goal today is to, through transparency and democratic integrity, attempt to provide clarity on the crisis in Rivers State and, very importantly, define the urgent actions that need to be taken to address the unconstitutional actions that have been taken in Rivers State. I will now attend to our statement. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, fellow Nigerians, we unequivocally condemn President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State and the subsequent removal of the democratically elected governor, deputy governor, and members of the State House of Assembly for 6 months in the first instance, according to him. These actions constitute an executive coup against the people of Rivers State, a flagrant abuse of executive power, a violation of Nigeria's constitutional order, and an undermining of democracy. We agree that it is the prerogative of the President of Nigeria to declare a state of emergency and that the President can exercise the legal authority to make such a declaration under specific conditions as outlined in the Constitution. However, this power is not absolute. It is subject to legislative oversight and judicial review to prevent abuse, as has happened in this instance. Contrary to the Constitution, we have witnessed abuse of power, disregard of due process, and the violation of democratic principles with the President's imposition of a state of emergency and appointment of an unconstitutional administrator in Rivers State, and the National Assembly's complicity in ratifying unconstitutionality. This is clearly a travesty on the rule of law and contrary to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have noted that there are several constitutional violations, which include, but are not limited to: 1, abuse of presidential prerogative, Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution. While the President has the legal authority to declare a state of emergency under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, this power is not a blank check for dictatorship. The sequence of events, including the pipeline explosions, which are now doubtful, and the impeachment proceedings against the governor, makes the call for a state of emergency suspicious. 2, unconstitutional and opaque actions of the National Assembly. Section 305(2) requires that any proclamation for a state of emergency be submitted to the National Assembly for approval within 2 days, or 10 days if the National Assembly is not in session, without which the emergency ceases to have effect. The Constitution requires 2/3 of each chamber of the National Assembly to ratify the order. This means 73 out of 109 senators and 240 out of 360 members of the House of Representatives. Yesterday, the House of Representatives approved the state of emergency by voice vote. By voice vote. While a member raised a point of order from the floor, he was silenced. In the Senate, they had a closed-door executive session. How can citizens ensure the provisions of the constitutions were followed? The presidency made matters worse by applauding the clear desecration of the Nigerian Constitution. The judiciary must immediately strike down this blatant violation of Nigeria's constitutional democracy. 3, illegitimate removal of elected officials, Section 188, and federalism provisions. The Constitution does not support the unilateral dismissal of Rivers State elected leaders, or the elected leaders of any other state for that matter, which is an egregious violation of Nigeria's federal structure. Section 188 sets out the due process for the removal of a governor, which requires due process, legislative inquiry, and judicial oversight. No such process occurred. Chapters VI and VII protect the autonomy of state governments within Nigeria's federal structure. The president's actions set a dangerous precedent. If left unchallenged, they will set the stage for the arbitrary dismissal of any elected state government at the president's whim, rendering Nigeria's democracy and people's mandate meaningless. The president does not have the power to arbitrarily dismiss state officials. His actions are dictatorial and illegal and must be resisted by all Nigerians. Our demands: 1, immediate reversal of the state of emergency. We demand an immediate reversal of the unconstitutional removal of the governor, deputy governor, and House of Assembly members in Rivers State, for the simple reason, as we have stated above, that the president does not have the constitutional authority to remove these officials. 2, legislative oversight. We call on members of the National Assembly who were not part of yesterday's charade to speak up against the violation of the Constitution. We also call on Nigerians to make their displeasure known to their representatives. The National Assembly is the highest lawmaking body in the country, and they must not be allowed to get away with choosing which of Nigerians' laws they want to obey and when they will obey it. 3, judiciary operating on merit. There will be several lawsuits in the coming days, and I'm sure we all know that, if this matter is not quickly addressed by the National Assembly and the executive branch. We require the judiciary to review each case on its merit and not rely on technicalities to dismiss the cases. 4, restoration of constitutional order. We urge all stakeholders, including the judiciary, civil society, and the international community, to closely monitor the situation in Rivers State and ensure that any emergency measures are strictly in line with constitutional and democratic principles. 5, citizens' vigilance. We urge Nigerians to leverage available channels to demand a reversal of the state of emergency in Rivers State and push for a functional democracy. Nigerians must not stay silent. We urge citizens to write to their representatives, mobilize within their communities, and demand action through peaceful protests and other lawful means. History has shown that when unconstitutional acts like this go unchallenged, they become the norm. If Rivers is silenced today, no state is safe tomorrow. In conclusion, we remain committed to upholding the Constitution, defending democratic governance, and ensuring that the rule of law prevails in Nigeria. We call on the Nigerian government to live up to its mandate according to the Nigerian Constitution and not be a cog in the wheel that threatens the democratic rights of the people of Rivers State and all Nigerians. We stand in solidarity with the people of Rivers State as they demand the restoration of constitutional order within the ambit of the law. We stand united in defense of our constitutional order and democratic ideals. The removal of elected officials under the guise of emergency powers is unconstitutional and must be rejected in the strongest possible terms. I thank you all for listening. As I promised earlier, for the purposes of transparency and democratic integrity, I will proceed to read out all the names of the organizations and individuals that signed the statement that I have just read. I start now. Number 1, Fix Politics Initiative. 2, Accountability Lab Nigeria. 3, Budget Foundation. 4, Bo Foundation for Inclusive Media. 5, Campaign for a New Nigeria. 6, Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. 7, DigiCivic Initiative. 8, DoTakeAction.org. 9, Ebenezer Care Missions. 10, Enough is Enough Nigeria. 11, Feminist Manifesto. 12, Fund ELG Africa. 13, Global Rights. 14, Human Rights Journalists Network. 15, Initiative for Research, Innovation and Advocacy in Development. 16, International Press Center. 17, Lawyers Network Against Corruption. 18, Lex Initiative for Rights Advocacy and Development. Is this? 19, Mandate4.org. 20, Media Rights Agenda. 21, Mothers United and Mobilize. 22, Policy Alert. 23, Progressive Abia Youth. 24, Cessor Empowerment Foundation. 25, TAF Africa. 26, TEM Foundation. 27, the Electoral Hub. 28, the Rule of Law and Empowerment Initiative. 29, Upline Center for Development. 30,